Hello. Now in this video, I'm going to show you my new risk structure, which I plan to grow small accounts. This is something that I plan to do alongside a larger account where I'll risk 1 to 2% of trade, typically a much more normal, safer risk structure to not blow the account. We're going to go through how you can 4x a small account very quickly, maybe once or even twice per week if you get quite good at it, what leverage you'll need, how much you should be looking to deposit. We're going to do some backtesting. We're going to go through all of that. We're going to track all the data. But although we're going to do some backtesting, this is more about the risk structure and less about the strategy. The strategy is more down to you, yourself, and how you would like to go about that. I'm Sam. I've been trading profitably now since July this year. This is nothing crazy, but I'm just sharing my journey. Now here I've got my free Telegram where there's a link in the description where I share all my analysis, all the trades I'm taking, all the trades I have taken, anything going on in the Forex world which I find interesting, I'm going to share it in here. If you'd like the sound of this and you're on your journey and you'd like some help, then feel free to get involved. We're currently on a 6-trade win streak right now as well. So people that have been following along, it's been a pretty good time considering December is usually a bit of a slow month for the markets. We've been doing pretty well. Okay, now before we begin and talk about it, I just want to say this is not financial advice. You need to base your decisions off your own research, not just this video. Now, in a nutshell, this is about the risk structure, not the strategy, although we will do some backtesting and go through that. But what it is you're going to risk 100% of the balance with a 1-to-1 risk to reward, and you're looking to catch a 2-trade win streak. That's it. Now, at the time of recording, I'm currently on a 6-trade win streak. So this would have actually 4x'd an account 3 times in a row, which would have been great. My plan is to use this on the H1 chart using just support and resistance and a bit of intuition and watching the trend, because you can only do one trade at a time when you're using such large amount of your account capital. So to do it on H1, just to make the trades a bit quicker so I get a bit more trades in each week. Okay, now I actually started this challenge today, and I'm just going to show you the first trade I take, which luckily was a winner. It went really well. So we had Euro USD. It's in a clear downtrend on the H4. So typically, on the H4 daily, I would not be thinking about going long on this. But because I was on the H1, I thought a bit different. So we came to the support zone. Again, it's not the strongest, like it's quite weak, but we had some action, quite a lot of rejection. Anyway, it failed to make a lower low, and it just about made a higher high. And although this was slightly eager of me, I decided to go in. And I'm on the replay feature now because this was yesterday when I entered. But in the end, it did come close to being stopped out, but in the end, it was a winner. Okay, so on that trade, I made 100% gain. Before I tell you how much that is and everything, we're just going to keep going on how this works. So you're going to need 500s to 1 leverage, if not greater. You need the biggest leverage you can get. Now, it's actually a very safe idea, regardless of what leverage you have, that you deposit more than you're risking to avoid margin calls and being stopped out. So although I said you're going to risk 100% of the balance, what I did on that trade was I wanted to risk $125, but in my account, I deposited 175. So I deposited an extra 50 just to give me that buffer. I'm never going to risk that extra 50. That's not included. It's just so I don't get stopped out and margin called. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're looking to catch a 2-trade win streak using a 1-to-1 risk to reward. The reason we use the 1-to-1 is because it gives you the highest win rate, and this strategy is all about win rate and win succession. Now, you might have heard this thrown around a lot on the internet, but if you just enter trades with 1-to-1 risk to reward with practically no strategy and you just enter blind, over the long haul, you will most likely have 50% win rate. Now, this, of course, can be better if you've got a solid strategy under your belt and you read the chart well and you've got experience and you've got results to back this up. But at the bare minimum, if you enter trades and you just leave them alone and you don't touch them, you should have a 50% win rate. So here, you can do this research for yourself, but here I've literally just Googled what are the chances of a coin landing on heads 2 times in a row, because that's what we basically need. And you can see here it's 25%, so it should be 1 in 4. Okay. Now, if you decide to risk the same amount every account and you win 1 in 4, again, it's a break-even strategy. No surprise. So there's a few things we can do to make it not a break-even strategy. Obviously, one is you sharpen up your trades and you get a higher than 50% win rate, which I think everyone's capable of. Number 2, we can play around with the risk structure. So here I've drawn out some numbers and I've talked about win rate and how much to deposit, etc., etc. So at the top, this is literally I was just tracking the trade I did earlier. It's unlikely I'm going to track all these trades forever. I'm probably just going to track them whilst the account is live. So here we can say, let's say we had £1,000. So we're looking at this table here. And you had £1,000, and I'm giving you 8 chances to win, okay? But we're not risking the same amount every trade. So round 1, we're just going to try £50 deposit. Now, if you double that twice, which is what we're looking to do, you're going to be £200 up, which means minus the deposit, £150 profit. Now, on the next trade, on the next round, I've decided to implement it, increase it to £75, and you can see the numbers here, okay? So the overall profit if you win on each round is listed here. Whereas if we look on this table, you will then see that, let's say we decided to risk the same amount every trade, which was £100, for example, it doesn't matter. Obviously, the sooner you get your 2 trade win streak, the more profit you make. But if you start to have a few where you don't get that 2 trade win streak, it turns into negatives. But if you back the maths and you've gone through your journal and you know what you're capable of, which is things we're going to talk about after, about how you should back test this and do it on a demo first, then this looks like a pretty good option to me, because after each losing round, you can decide to either, maybe you maintain risk the same for a couple, but you can start to increase it so that when you finally catch that 2 trade win streak, it wipes out everything. This is not really martingale. We're not doubling down each time here, because of course martingale can get silly. And overall, you should never have an amount which you're willing to lose, because of course there's a chance with all these 8 you could lose every single one, and you could lose £1,000. It's very possible. You might get slightly emotional, like you've got to accept the fact that might happen. You also could get hit out by spreads. There could be overnight fees, things that you can't anticipate, which you don't get from backtesting. Okay, so here we are in TradingView. We're going to do some backtesting. We're going to use the replay feature. I'm currently in the H1 chart, but we're going to go back in time and we're just going to see what is actually the chances of making much money using this risk feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the daily. We're going to clear it so I can't see it. We're going to go back quite a bit and we're just going to hit replay. So where are we? May 22. We're going to hit replay. We're going to go to H1 and then we're in. Okay, now for this, I'm just going to use H1. When I'm actually trading for real, I'll definitely be drawing up daily and H4 zones for sure. But here we go. Okay, so there's a trade here. Overall, we look like we're in a bit of a downtrend. It's failed to make a higher high, so I'm going to go short here. So that first trade was a loss. We're going to just keep track of it here. So account 1 was minus 100, just to keep it simple. And what we're just going to do is every single new account, we're just going to increase the risk by £50. That's it. So this next trade we're going to take is going to be £150 risk. Okay, now here we found our next trade. So it's basically an H1 break and retest. We're going to enter here after this candle. Stop just below the zone, 1-to-1. Okay, so that one was a winner. Great. So now account 1 was minus 100. Account 2, we've now taken from 150 to 300. So we need one more win to say we forex the account. Okay, again, we're uptrending hard. So I'm actually going to go for a buy here on this break and retest. We're going to place our stop just below these recent lows with a 1-to-1 risk to reward. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this next one turned out to be a loss. So overall now we've actually lost 100 and then we lost 150. Okay, so overall we've lost 250. This next account 3, we're going to start with our risking at £200. Okay, so I haven't taken a trade for quite a few candles now, but we've got this H1 downtrend with a break and retest. So we're going to go short here, risking £200. Again, we don't need the inval much higher than where it's at. So we've now taken this account from 200 to 400. We need one more win, and then we've taken the account to 800. Okay, so this now looks like a good break and retest. We've had this sort of, it's overall downtrending. It's hard to read trends on the H1 because there's so many candles. On the H4 and daily, I'm sure this should be starting to look like a fairly obvious downtrend. So we've flirted with the zone. It's come through, it's broken. It's starting to sell off again with 2 rejection candles. So we're going to enter sell here. Okay, and there we go. So then this account would have been taken to 800. Okay, so that was a winner, which means that last count we would have taken from 200 to 800. So account 3 would have made us 600, whilst the first 2 would have been losses. So overall, the 600 profit minus the 250 loss equals 350 profit. Now, again, you can play around with these. You can do your own numbers. I recommend that you backtest a lot. I also realized that I'm going to cut up this backtesting section because it was so long. So, you might argue that I was just fudging it and I knew what was going to happen and I gave myself the win. But the thing we're focusing on here is the risk structure, okay? Okay, now from here, what I recommend is that you go away and you do your own backtesting so that this strategy becomes second nature to you. Your next step should then to be demo this and aim to be successful over a couple week period, depending on what time frame you're using. There's nothing really wrong with using a higher time frame, especially if you're busy and you've got a lot of things going on in life. The only thing is you can only do one trade at a time. It might be a bit long until one trade gets wrapped up and you can get to the next one. But once you've backtested it hard and you've demoed and you've proved yourself that this is working, then go live. If it's not working, then there's no point in going live. You're just going to lose money and get frustrated. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to go over the mentality of this. Now, it's hard, but the goal here is not to make money. The goal is to follow the process. And obviously, the reason everyone's trading is to make money. But if you're consciously focusing on that and just looking at the numbers and forgetting your strategy and what you've proved to yourself works, then this massively affects your results. You need to go away and prove to yourself you can do this in backtesting and demo first. This will just build masses of confidence. So even if you do suffer a couple accounts blowing, you know full well that you've got all this data to prove, well, actually, I know if I structure like this, or I increase my risk £50 every account, etc., whatever you want to do, you've got data that proves to you that you're going to work in the long run. And that's trading. That's always what trading is about. Is you're not trying to be right over one trade or two trades. You're trying to be right over the course of many, and the way you structure risk and everything over the course of years and years. We've also just gone through the likelihood on Google of you getting two heads or tails in a row. So you know full well that 1 in 4 accounts you should really get a win even without doing any strategy. Even if you just enter blind and you want to purely gamble like this, which I don't recommend with that attitude, but even doing it like that is a very good way to go. So you can go and prove to yourself it's possible, and the only thing that may stop you is your approach, your mentality, maybe some nerves. Something I went in depth about quite a lot in my recent video, where I basically say how your strategy is not the thing that's holding you back. It's more you, your approach, your how nervous you get, your feelings, all things like that. So going forwards, I'm going to be trying this. I'm going to be dropping it in Telegram how it's all going, alongside a larger account when I would just use 1 to 2% risk per trade. If you found this useful or you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. I'm going to read them all. See you next time.